Liam, very tough night for you. Just give us your initial thoughts if you can.
Tough end, I think. Given the volume of changes we made, actually, first half, some really good elements to the performance. I thought we defended it well. I thought we pressed well. I thought we, got into some really good areas and asked questions. Their keeper, I thought, played depth, and then very similar to the weekend, where sloppy moment and we're 1-0 down. From, like I said, a sloppy moment, but also a fantastic finish from them, which when you play against that level of opposition can happen. So it was a straight, one of those where you come in at half time frustrated, but at the same point knowing that there was a lot of good amongst it as well. And then second half, I thought there was still some moments that were very good, but at the same point, I think I didn't like particularly how we finished the game. I think in terms of just the intensity to continue going to the end for me needs to be better, and some of that will be physically as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you then. I mean, clearly it did feel like it tailed off there the second half. I mean, that would disappoint you. What would you put that down? Is that just the level of changes? That it is pretty much a side that's been put together, isn't it, for this game?
Yeah, twofold. I think there'll be physical elements, but also I think in terms of we have to be tougher. I think that's the big bit, and not just, I think we talk about running, we talk about duels, but I also think with the ball and just a little smarter on transition. How do we break play up? I think in terms of in and around their box, we can't get into those areas that number of times and not score. We have to be more clinical. You look at them, I wouldn't say they created tons of chances, but you lose 3-0. So we have to be more clinical. We have to show more quality, and we have to show more toughness.
Have you, in terms of your tone with the players? Obviously, I'm not going to push you on what you've said to them, but have you gone in and just expressed that that's not what you, as you've said to us previously. We need to know what good is and what isn't good. Have you conveyed that to the players after the game?
Yeah, of course. I'm always honest with them. I think in terms of and naturally you lose a game 3-0. I hate losing, but I think you also have to be realistic. I think in your reflections as well. So we have to. I think there's elements where at the minute lads are chasing how we perform rather than, I think, naturally I think when you look at it, structure's better, how we play it out of possession, how we press is better, how we deal with long balls is better, how we, I thought play depth tonight was very good. It's then what does the bottom bar of that performance look like? And that's the bit for me where we go from producing really high level moments to, really poor moments too quickly. And that's the bit we have to work really hard to raise that bottom bar and make sure that, when it's not quite right, we're still pragmatic. We're tough to beat. We don't give the opposition anything, and that I'm sure will come as we develop as a group. And for me, when you look at it, I think in terms of up against an extremely strong opposition, I think you get to a stage where you can consistently win. I think if it's all about just win at any expense without understanding how, I think you then become a little bit sporadic with results. So for me, it's understanding how do we perform to win, and then we have to quickly learn that aspect of the performance to win.
And as you said, basically yesterday, all the things you spoke about, the time effectively that you need on the training pitch, in game, those relationships. Does that tonight just underline everything you said yesterday?
Yeah, very much so. I think it is natural. I hurt like everybody. I'm frustrated like everybody, but I'm also, I think, in terms of, I think you have to in these moments have elements of composure as well. I think in terms of, we're 5 games in. I think in terms of. As a new team with lots of change, I think we have to learn quickly because we want to win soon. But I also think in terms of understanding, been here before with some of the, the frustrating, difficult results that you sometimes have to suck up to actually develop that toughness, to learn how to be resilient, to learn how to win. You have to unfortunately have some tough periods along the way.
And in terms of the positive elements, I'm sure the fact you've given Mate, first start for you, and Matthias as well. Just give us a sense of how you felt those two slotted in tonight.
Yeah, I thought they showed some really good moments. Hence, like I said, there was large elements at the first half that were very good. I think I thought Mate looked a threat. Got a couple of rolling inside, playing depth. I thought he did very well at times, and then Matthias as well in terms of just a constant pest. He's up against someone twice his size and winning aerial duels, running depth. Again, I've also had a couple of decent chances for me where, I think I expect him to take in the future.
On Mate, I mean, you said because he played in the previous round, obviously came on, and then he didn't. I don't think you used him at Portsmouth. You said, look, at the right time we'll see him. Is it the right time now? Do you feel?
I think we have to see how he responds to tonight. I think in terms of, it's been quite a while since, he's in a competitive game done those minutes. So yeah, I think naturally he physically obviously deteriorated a little bit just before he came off. So I think it's one of those where he'll keep improving, keep getting better. And I think in terms of his level in trainings, last 2-3 weeks is, conditionally he's in a much better place. Mentally he looks in a much better place. So again, I think he's pushing now to have impact.
I mean, you've spoken about Carrow Road. Now you're desperate to give these fans that excitement and that optimism and that. So it goes without saying you don't want to start off your reign here with 3 defeats, but I guess you just would reinforce what you've said all along. Just that patience, just that buy-in, and obviously, as you say, there's a lot of work going on now that will bear dividends.
Definitely that. I think we have to stick together, right? I think in terms of not overreact on anything. We have to understand. There's still 43 league games to play. I think as the team, I can guarantee the team will improve and progress and get better over time, and that will be, numerous factors. It will be having some experiences like we've had, in 2 wins last week, 2 defeats this week. They're things that you have to reflect on. You have to use to become better. I think the work behind the scenes of how do we become a bit more streetwise. How do we make sure that it's great playing a certain style, but you're doing it to win a game. So how do you make sure in those transitional moments? How do we be harder to beat? How do we not turn the ball over easy? They're little bits at the minute that are hurting us. But I think in terms of the direction the group's going in, I think there's loads to be excited about. I think you see that in the first half with some of the attacking play was really good. I really enjoyed watching out large elements of it. So I think it's there'll be the next stages they'll come.
And just final one from me. I mean, in terms of you don't want to have to go through that experience clearly tonight, or even Middlesbrough for that matter, or Millwall, but I guess age you and your coaches have, you're learning about these players all the time. You've given quite a few opportunities tonight that haven't had them so far. So again, it's all information now that you can process with your coaches to try and get to that point where you've got that your best 11 players out on the park executing the game plan you want.
Definitely, and how they deal with pressure. I think that's the biggest bit. I think how do we collectively cope with pressure, and I think it's not them and us. We're all in it together. I think that's the key bit. The players are desperate to do well. I think our job's to steer them and educate them of how do you do that. How do you go from 70% of the game to 80%? How do you go from 80% to 90%? How do we get to a stage where you're chasing a complete performance? And I think I watched Middlesbrough back at the weekend. I know we spoke about it yesterday. I think when you look at it, it's easy to turn that game from a loss into a win for me. It's not a million miles away. I think if I was coming away from all the games going we're a million miles behind the opposition, I'd be a bit more concerned. But I think the fact that I'm coming away going, performance-wise, we're dominating for large periods. It's on us to change that. Not giving goals away and making sure that we're ruthless at the other end. That's the bit where I go. It's on us. We have to, and that's the bit that we have to keep working at, because that's the bit that will change it.
Cheers, Liam. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's fine. Liam, can I just ask about Matthias and the fact that you took him off at half time? Was that a fitness thing or just selection?
Yeah, no. To answer your question, it wasn't pre-planned. It was, and he's fine. I think it's one of those. I think when we've sat in mind a little bit when you look at it in terms of what he's done to date, plus then obviously minutes last weekend. I thought he put in a real shift tonight and had a real good impact. And then obviously when we go again, I think it's one of those where, we wanted to make sure that we looked after him a little bit. Thank you.
Thanks, Liam.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, gents.
All the best.